and welcome to Group Two's presentation on Venezuela under Hugo Chavez and after. My name is Michelle.
Hi, I am Arvind Tumbar.
Hi everyone, this is Arash.
Hi, I'm Joanne.
Hello, I am Dasura.
Hi, I'm Srinath CP.
Here is the outline for today's presentation, and these are all of the topics we will be going through. Venezuela is a country in South America. They have an ocean front and are bordering to countries like Brazil and Colombia. They used to be rich and have the biggest oil reserve in the world, and therefore oil has always been their main export. The country has a rich biodiversity with the Andes Mountain in the west and the Amazon Basin in the south. An all-year temperature around 26 to 28 degrees makes it sound like the perfect holiday destination, but it's not. In 1999, Hugo Chavez became president after winning the election in 1998. He won the election with over 50% of the votes, but as many Venezuelans had no faith in the system by then, the election had the lowest voter turnout in history. Of course, this victory came after several failed coups and a prison sentence. When he gained political power, the economy was in ruins. The collapse of oil prices meant a large budget deficit and a deep recession for the country. He was a president that had the less fortunate part of the population in mind. He passed laws in favor of the general people in the country and stripped away the power of economic, religious, and political groups. He was elected in a democratic way, but during his reign, he took steps to weaken the opposition leaders. He had practiced rule by decree 3 times before 2010. This gave him the right to bypass parliament and rush more than 100 laws through, including one that let him nationalize major political oil projects. Because of this approach, he and his country was no longer seen as democratic or free by the outside world. After Chavez's death in 2013, chaos erupted in the country. His death resulted in an economic war provoked by national and international business sectors attempting to shape the country's economic stability. His successor, Nicolas Maduro, took over, attempting to continue the work of Chavez, but things did not go well for him. His minimal victory resulted in violent demonstration, and things only got worse from there. The political opposition used this turmoil to try and shift the power in the country. Now the people are suffering. Basic lack of necessities like food and medicine are haunting the countries, and the GDP is lower than ever before. The healthcare system is in ruins and people are dying. The Venezuelan people are doing what they can to shine light of the monstrosities happening in the country. For the past few years, there has been regular demonstrations in the country as the people had had enough. Not only is food and medicine inaccessible, but crime rates are rising. Their country is bathed in violence and murders, both from the government and from the criminals. Venezuela is suffering from hyperinflation. In 2019, the inflation was at 9,585.5%. In comparison, the US is around 2. Thanks to the excessive printing of money by the government, to pay debt, social care, healthcare, and so on, the money in Venezuela has no value, and the people are afraid, and many are starving.
I am Arvind Tumbar. Now I am discussing political system in Venezuela. Venezuela has a dominated party system dominated by the United Socialist Party of Venezuela. The governing United Social Party of Venezuela, Partido Socialista Unido Venezuela (PSUV) since last 2007. There are some number of smaller parties supporting Hugo Chavez Bolivarian Revolution with Fifth Republic movement. PSUV and its foreigners was held the Presidency National Assembly in 1998. Venezuela has a presidential government. The Economist Intelligence Unit rated Venezuela authoritarianism regime in 2019. Next to political environment. Political environment in during Chavez rule. Chavez rule in the new constitution passed by an overwhelming majority in a referendum 1999. Random Venezuela as a Bolivarian republic. Gave Chavez control over important industry including oil, agriculture and many more. Million marched against Chavez after Chavez files official from PDVSA means Petrols de Venezuela SA, its Venezuela's state-owned oil and natural gas company, at the end of 2007. However, Venezuela voters rejected a controversial constitutional referendum that means including amendment which would have allowed Chavez run for reallocation indefinitely. In February 2009, constitutional referendum calling for the elimination of term limits on all elected officials had been approved for more than 54 percentage of voters, clearing way for Chavez run for presidency again in 2012. In the election held in October 2012, Chavez captured more than 54% of vote. Political environment in after Chavez rule. After Chavez rules in, Vice President Nicolas Maduro won election with a narrow margin for remaining years of Chavez term. In May 2016, some 1.8 million signatures had been collected patient to trigger broader patent whether to hold a recall vote. As a reaction, Maduro declared a renewable 60-day state of emergency, granted the policy and army an additional power is to maintain public order. In current situation in Venezuela, Nicolas Maduro again wins election in 2018 for a 6-year term with heavy circumstances of corruption. Election procedures learned in favor of Maduro. On 23rd January 2019, a little-known Venezuela lawmaker John Guaido took oath of office, declaring himself interim president from of the crowd of cheering supporting in central Caracas.
Now we want to talk about economic system. As you can see in the slide, Venezuela has mixed economic system. And if you remember from the course, in this type of economic system, some certain parts remain private and the others are managed by government. This type of economic system usually happens in a country with valuable resources. And Venezuela is definitely one of them because of the fact that the oil is the main source of revenue in that country. When Chavez got power, he used all the oil funds on populist policies. The things like anti-poverty programs, social welfare and military. And his overspent on these programs was the reason that Venezuela did not save enough money for the future economic turmoil. His over-reliance on the oil was the reason that manufacturing GDP dropped in this country. You can see here in this slide that GDP was dropped from 20% in 1998 to 14% in 2012 when he passed away. In addition, it seems that oil production was not successful in his years because of the fact that through 1990, this country peaked 3.5 million barrels per day. But after that, never reached 3 million barrels per day. And the reason lies into two problems. The first one is the totalitarian tendencies which Chavez displayed. And the second one was the increasing royalties from 1% to 30%. Now, let's look what he did as nationalization. Chavez presided multiple waves of nationalization, including industries like mining, energy, steel, in food industries like rice or farmlands, and in service like hotels and telecommunication. These actions were important as they changed the collaborate variables with other countries. One of these variables was investment profile. Let's look at what is investment profile. To be honest, investment profile shows the risk of expropriation in one country. As a consequence of this nationalization, this investment profile fell from 554 in pre-Chavez period to 375 in his time, which means that 32% fall. This shows the worsening investment climate on that time in Venezuela.
Let's start with the background. The stagnation of the state-owned oil company, PDVSA, is responsible for the company chaos. PDVSA had been poorly managed in terms of who employs and its relationship with Chavez administration. Chavez had been replaced the company board director with political alliance and met with the company with the military energy and petroleum. Now I will let you know how the underlying changes of oil contract with foreign oil company and effect. In Venezuela, there is no long-term investment by Chavez. According to the sovereign wealth fund, Chavez had complete control over the country's sovereign wealth fund. There is limited involvement with any decision-making regarding the fund. Multinationals should aware of new neighbor Venezuela law come into effect in May 2013, reducing working week from 44 hours to 40. Most importantly, though foreign oil companies may fear of breaching U.S. sanctions against Venezuela government, the number of tankers at Venezuela port has dropped. They will likely to consider whether they can do businesses with Venezuela or probably risk losing ability to do businesses in the US. In that example is that how the PDVSA and the nationalism affect Venezuela as a whole. The Venezuela hydrocarbon regulation has been modified because the framework of nationalism increased the government operation control and capture. In the absence of stabilization, surface contractor must comply all laws and regulations enforced in Venezuela now and into the future. Mentioned previously, the protectionism policy will not help Venezuela long term, but rather harm in terms of their economic and legal system. Foreign direct investment is the major issue for the nation. Since 2007, FDI had decreased from 44 billion to 37.6 billion. Foreign investment in Venezuela will continue to be sluggish. Secondly, PDVSA is the state-owned oil company. Delayed payment on time have been the major concern for service providers operating in Venezuela. They will then create financial burden or additional transactional costs for national oil company. Two major multinational corporations, Chavez and Química, choosing to abandon their service due to low oil price and its socialist system. More than 20 multinational companies had left Venezuela. The figure had also shown that Venezuela had almost the last years of doing business, and the country had ranked 188 over 190, according to the World Bank Good statistic.
The next topic is ethics in the Venezuela. Now I am going to talk about the ethics, and according to case, there are some key ethical issues in the Venezuela under Hugo Chavez. So the Venezuelan economic performance showed that had to go down economy due to unsustainable policy which develops the corruption and supports unethical issues. So today I'm going to focus on corruption and human rights. So I would like to ask you how to become the high level of the corruption in the Venezuela. After elected the president of the Venezuela, Hugo Chavez made many unethical political decisions. For example, took many business sectors to state-own it in order to control economy. And also many professional employees were replaced with his unprofessional supports and also to obtain absolute political power. As a result, corruption level increased. According to Transparency International, this slide showed that how to increase corruption level in Venezuela from 2000 to 2019. Therefore, the corruption inhibits the economic growth. During the under Hugo Chavez, the most of companies and the people lost their business opportunities due to high level of the corruption. Also influences the business operation, employment and investment. Moreover, according to CIEC data update, this slide showed that how to decrease sharply foreign direct investment and also how to increase unemployment rate and also GDP. It also affects negatively tax revenue, the rule of the law, the education, the quality of the life. Another ethical issue is the human right. So today I am going to highlight the most adverse impact for the human right in the Venezuela. Who chose made many series of the laws which has restricted the democratic space. As a result, in Venezuela there are thousands of victims of human rights. The first human rights issue is the migration under serious issues. So according to Washington Post 2018, it is estimated that more than 3 million people have fled Venezuela since 2015. And also the next human rights issue is the right to freedom of expression. And according to Amnesty International 2019 and BIN 2016, it showed that some essential facts in this slide. And also the last human rights issue is an impact of the human mass protest. And also we can see some negative impact. Therefore, these unethical issues were main impact to bring in contemporary poor situation in Venezuela. So it will be continued if Venezuela take efficient steps to address that issue.
Now, let us discuss upon the timeline of Chavez's rule and few important events that happened during his reign, and then draw conclusions out of them. Before December 1998. In 1992, Chavez attempts two failed coups. In 1993, President Carlos Andres has been removed from his position for corruption charges. In 1994, a new president, Rafael Caldera, is being elected for a 6-year term who re-implements market-based reforms and multilateral organizations. During Rafael's government, the oil prices went high and resulted in a negative per capita GDP growth, and high inflation rate and high unemployment rate created unstable political economic environment in Venezuela. Due to this, people lost trust in their government and the parties and constantly accused them for corruption. Hence, the stage was set for a new leadership. And then arrives Hugo Chavez. Hugo Chavez's rule can be divided into 3 parts. First stage, from 1999 to 2003. In 1999, a National Assembly has been elected to write a new constitution. During his presidential campaigns, Hugo Chavez promises for a participative democracy which favors market liberalization, but with a mixed economy. In 2000, a new constitution has been elected by almost 60% of voters, and in the same year, the National Assembly gives President an enabling law that gives him tremendous amount of power to rule by decree and to formulate laws. And in just 1 year, in 2001, Hugo Chavez creates 49 laws, including the hydrocarbon law, which gives him control over the oil industry of the country. Under the economic environment of this stage, Hugo Chavez fires 19,000 employees from the state-owned oil and gas company and replaces them with employees loyal to the government. The first 4 years of Chavez's rule was not pleasant in terms of inflation because it hit the highest since 1950. Most importantly, the oil production factor went low. which resulted into high unemployment rate and high polarity between income and a very low human development index. Stage 2, consolidation of power, 2004 to 2008. In 2005, Hugo Chavez proposes for socialism and his first plan towards socialism gets approved. In 2005, the same year, his party gets control over the National Assembly, and in 2006 he gets re-elected as president for a 6-year term. And the most important event that happens during this time is MNCs like ExxonMobil and ConocoPhillips refuse to the change in agreements brought by Hugo Chavez that gives more power to the state-owned oil and gas company. Due to their refusal, he expropriates their assets and they leave the country. In the economic front of this stage, Hugo Chavez could spend more money on his social projects because of the surge in oil prices. It raised the inflation but boosted the economy. The value of oil exports increased from $22 billion to $89 billion. Due to the expropriation and nationalization, many companies and MNCs around the world believed that it was more riskier to invest in Venezuela during that time. Most importantly, the economy of Venezuela became more fragile during Chavez's term because its dependency on oil industry increased from 76.2% to 94.1%. Phase 3, 2009 to 2012. Because of the GFC, Hugo Chavez's government had to stop spending on public expenditures. But in 2012, Hugo Chavez becomes third-time president of Venezuela. In March 5, 2013, Hugo Chavez dies and his hand-picked successor, Nicolas Maduro, becomes the president. Economically, because of the GFC, the oil exports take a big hit and per capita GDP falls to 4.6 and 2.9 in 2009 and 2010 respectively. But the oil prices regain strength in 2011 and 12, and the per capita GDP grows to 2.5 and 4.1 in 2011 and 12 respectively. In summary, 3 major points can be derived from the Chavez rule. First, an authoritarian state was set up rather than the participative democracy which was promised by Chavez. This was because Constitution was rewritten in favor of the president, giving him a lot of power over the economy. Second, the decline in the oil production can be attributed towards 2 major points. First, firing the experts from the industry. Second, not reinvesting the revenues in the industry. Last but not the least, the crumbling economy can be attributed towards the poor strategy of Chavez, which was dependent on the oil industry rather than the productivity of the people. At the end, Venezuela became unfavorable for businesses and foreign investments because the risks and cost of doing business in Venezuela was way higher than the benefits.
Our recommendation, political stability is at the top of the list. Before this is achieved, the country cannot move on. Now, this doesn't necessarily have to be democracy, but of course it is preferred. When the political stability is reached, the next step is for the government to regain control over its economy. For this to be possible, a functioning legal system must also be put in place to battle the corruption, as this is a new way to prosecute, and looking into the past for cues might not be the right way for Venezuela. A civil law system is the best way to start over for the country, as it limits interpretation. With this in place, it is time to start the economy again. When political security is in place, the country can work to attract the attention of companies abroad. A free market system and privatization of the industry will help foreign companies into the Venezuelan market. As the state is left with little to no control, this also opens up for foreign direct investments to be made in the country. As money starts flowing and the taxes are paid, it is time to start investing into the future. This includes education, agriculture, infrastructure, and health, all steps to make Venezuela a place where people see a future. Now, as the oil prices are dropping, and in April 2020 the prices went below zero, focusing on oil can prove to be a dead end for the country. They must spread out their attention to other industries and other ways to make money. This could be agriculture. Another one could be tourism. They have the land and the nature for it. In the past, the lack of political stability in the country has made a very dangerous place to visit, but that could.
Here are a few questions to reflect upon and to bring solution for the current situation of Venezuela.